So I'm Honesty. I am a woman in long-term recovery since May 27, 2007. Recovery has really awarded me so many things. The biggest thing is my family, obviously. Throughout this recovery process and throughout all of these years, gosh, it's been almost 15 years. Your family is what you're going to have forever. And, you'll see, you'll kind of really didn't want, okay. So you'll read in the book a lot of things that women go through, not just my addiction and my recovery, but some childhood stuff that I had to overcome, but also stuff with my children, stuff with my husband. Men can certainly resonate to this book as well, but it's really the impact on like society has on women in general and how we can overcome so many different barriers for being a female CEO. Hey. And an entrepreneur and now an author. And it was, a long process doing this book. And I just wanted to do something else. I've been at the McShin Foundation for a long time. I came through McShin, so a lot of McShin participants and alumni are here. John and Carol, raise your hand. Y'all know John and Carol started the McShin Foundation. The Mick and the Shin took me in all those years ago. My mom knew John. I walked in, stayed. He could get $30. I ran down that road, came back 4 days later, and haven't never left. So John took me in with open arms, practically nothing. My daughter was 5, and I could not take care of her either. So I lived here for 5 months, and then I started working here when I moved out. And John and I, board of directors, previous staff, our supporters and donors have built this organization to heal families and save lives. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Trust me, you'll read all about it. So I'm just like y'all. I just work very hard for what I have, and it's important to not only just work hard, for what I have, but also like really understand like what addiction is, what recovery is, and just to be a human, on this planet. And it's multitude of things. It's not just, for me, it's not just stopping using drugs. And you'll hear the history of my addiction, you'll hear the history of my recovery, but it's really that self-healing with the herd around me and really forgiving myself for so many things that I did as a child and through active addiction and honestly in recovery. Because just because you're in recovery or if you know someone that's in recovery doesn't mean you're going to be a perfect human. Oh, Winnie. That sounded like a boy dog, Winnie. I thought that was John doing his Marine. I was like, come on. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So like, I don't know what I was saying, but I love Winnie. I love dogs. We have 2 dogs. They're in the book. Well, Shelby Monroe's in the book. She's my angel. We got Rocky after it printed. But I think like a lot of us, especially now with the world and what's going on right now with the world and so many facets, like the world has just changed and it's just not like it was when I was a child, when I was using the drugs now are not the drugs that I used to use. There's the crappy part about working here and having a career for my heroin addiction is really all of the death and everything that we see, throughout this building, throughout this alumni, throughout the recovery community. I can't tell you how many funerals and memorials I've been to the past 2 years to really, it's been years, but the past 2 years, it's just the numbers are ridiculous. So it is important for me to be a face and voice of recovery. And what that means to me is, being a female CEO, writing a book, but also like really getting real with myself and working on myself so I can be a better human every single day. And every day isn't perfect and every day isn't beautiful. But I feel like as long as I'm on this planet that I need to strive to help people. I just do. And I don't know if that'll change in a year or 2, but it's gotten me this far, so I'm going to keep doing it. But also like being able to forgive myself, but also forgive those around me and really try to teach not only the participants and the females at McShin, but my children, how to be I don't even know really what a good human really is a definition, but how to be a good, person in the community. And that starts with yourself, really loving yourself and the person that you want to be. Because that trickles down to all those that are around you. John and Carol started McShin all those years, 17 years, almost 18 years now. And gosh, I'm getting old. But really of that like whole healing family saving lives, unit. And I know a lot of the women, I've talked to some of you, I'll get to know the newer ones are mothers. And my biggest, staying in recovery and everything, but the biggest pride I guess I have and the biggest, what keeps me going is being two humans mom. And some days it's hard, but I feel like God put me here for a reason. And it's not just to write a book and, all of this stuff. It is to teach my children, survive the next generation, so they can keep going and going and try to spread love and hope wherever they go. So I love y'all. I don't know where he went. Oh, there he is. And, my daughter is a huge part of the book because of what I put her through. And I know a lot of the women here have similar stories. So I'm telling you now, she's now 20, beautiful, smart, works at a hospital. So, hey, welcome. And wants to go to nursing school. Our son has never had to see me use. He gets all of his needs, most of his wants. He plays well, he's got a broken finger right now. But we teach him about acceptance in our household and, take care of yourself. But, I never thought in a million years I would A, get my daughter back, B, be in recovery this long, and C, have like the happiest life I never even dreamed of. And a lot of that starts with my husband. So you'll read in the book a lot. About, because I see a lot of relationships form, and a lot of times it doesn't normally end. Someone passes away or goes back to jail, and we did not listen to John or anyone. We met in treatment another place a long time ago, and John let me come back, but he had quite a few select words for Adam. We joke about it, but he was honest and he was real, and I stayed away from him for 4 months, but that's not a year, but that's all right. And but you'll read in the book, it's still not a good idea, okay? Just because we stayed in recovery, sometimes it's hard. And like throughout this process of like getting older and like our children getting older and like this whole book, like he is literally, I know people say their partner's their rock, like he is literally, like this has been hard, like having a full-time job, being a mom, doing all the other things that I do out in the community and trying to write a book at night. I put on my Dr. Dre beats and listen to ocean music, Brenda, ocean music. And that's how I wrote this book. And it would be nights and weekends. And I'm like, I got to go write. I got Zooms. I got the whole Amazon fiasco. I'm so happy I don't use drugs anymore because that was very stressful. And I adore you. And we've been through so much, and I wouldn't even attempt to be, I couldn't even be the woman that I am without you. There's no way. And that really is the power of healing, forgiving, and really taking a look at yourself as a human. So if you're in a relationship early in recovery, there is hope. There's only 1% of us out there that make it, though. So just FYI. And it's been a journey, but it's been ugly, beautiful, amazing, and ugly. But we've been now like 16 years now going strong, and our family's amazing. And my sisters, Harmony, I know she's crying. My sisters are here, Harmony and Zen. They're in the book as well. Just coming from where we came from, I'm the one that ended up with addiction and put them through living hell, overdosed, and a lot. I put them through a lot of pain, and they stepped up and helped me with my daughter when I was incapable of being her mom. So I couldn't ask for two better sisters in the whole world. because we all came from the same household, and you'll read that, and like, I don't know what happened. I like doing drugs, and once I found heroin, the drugs like doing me, so it got really bad. But I know, I put y'all through living hell, and being able to be on the other side of it, and like having the life and the relationship as moms and sisters that we have. I adore y'all. I love y'all very much. And All Harmony brought all the little friends, a little girls group. I don't have any friends that I used to grow up with. They all like have been friends for like, I'm not gonna say your age, but a long time. And I don't have, because I have Alden with Winnie back there has been one of my best friends through this process. I know I saw Kelly Tuck. Kelly Tuck is my ride or die since day one. She was volunteering at McShin 100 years ago when I came here. She didn't take care of me too well because I went out that night and used, but we've been friends ever since. And the stuff that me and her have, this is part of networking specifically for the participants, like that we have been through together as women, as really sisters from another mister. Like, I want y'all to find those people while you're here in McShin, because I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like having someone. She's been with me, Carol's been with me, Brenda's been with me. I think that's it from day one of me moving into McShin, so almost 15 years now. And when I thought after the detox meds, I was gonna run away again and use again. So all these years later, it's because of y'all. It's because of having like really true friends in recovery and a supportive family, and then building the family that I have in recovery. So again, like I know I got a super cute dress from For Posh's Sake. I'll tag you later. And like I clean up well. Y'all saw me vacuuming in heels earlier. The lettuce that y'all spilled. But if I can do it, you can do it. Like living in McShin Smith House, all those years ago, I never dreamed of just the things I've gotten to do with John's leadership and teaching me, and Carol how to be a lady, and because I was a mess, and how to talk to policymakers, and like how to be a female leader. It's because of Carol and Brenda and John and countless other people that couldn't make it, but that's important to like be able to have a voice to try to help to save lives, because if you're in this field for a long time like us, it takes I can speak for myself, and I know probably y'all too, it takes a toll on you. I feel like I've got 32 wrinkles just from the deaths, and like getting close to people, and then they're gone forever, and it's really important to wake up every day, do my workouts, do the dogs, like have my routine. I love my Peloton bike. Peloton, hire me. I love my Peloton. I'm obsessed with my Peloton. Alden knows my Peloton, everything. But it's really take care of my body, and take care of, my mind and all of that, because this is the only body, whatever you believe in, this is what I believe in, the only life that I have. So I need to try to live it to the best of my ability. And that doesn't mean, don't get it twisted, that I'm on rainbows, and because he knows I'm not rainbows and sunshine all the time. But I am willing to take a look at everything that I go through on a day-to-day basis, and try to do better the next day or that evening, change my day. We all can do that as humans, whether you're in recovery or not. Our world is flipped upside down right now in so many ways, and as long as we get up and we're here on this planet, why not try to be a good human? Why not try to help someone in whatever facet, a positive way, and why not try to heal? That's really it. So I don't really have much else. I mean, the books, if you're in McShin, you get a book, and you can get a book. It's a book. But it's really a super quick read. And yeah, and then in a few minutes, we'll just take a 5-minute break, I guess. And if anybody wants to come get a book, there's food in there. And then we're going to start. We've got 6 amazing speakers. It's Women's History Month, so let me touch on that. Women's History Month, okay? So it should be every month. Every month. So I picked some speakers Kareemah, I'll be able to introduce people that have guided me these past couple years and got me through some really. So once you get like a longevity of recovery, then it's like really deep stuff you have to like work through. And Kelley, we've been friends for a long time now. Remember when she came through McShin, and we got awesome staff. Donna DL has been around since when I got here too. So we got some amazing speakers. So we're just going to take a quick break, and then we're going to start back up at like 6:25, and then we'll start doing the speaks. Does anyone's doing the speaks? Anyone have any questions or anything while you have me here? It's pretty simple, easy read. Everything's in the book. Okay. Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're on a bit of a timeline here. For those of you who do not know me, I am John Shenholzer. I'm co-founder of Care Talk with Honesty Liller. I'm also the president and co-founder of the McShin Foundation. But most important, I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorders. And for me, that means I like to use the old-fashioned terminology, clean and sober, since August 1982. And I personally value that old-time abstinence-based recovery pathway. So very proud to be here, proud to be part of this event tonight. More important, March, celebrating not only women in general, but women in recovery. That's a big deal. And some of you men, I'd like to remind you, if it weren't for women, your existence would not be possible. So, and knowing that it took a woman to bring you into this sphere that you're currently living in, remember, a woman can take you out if you don't treat them right. So you might want to keep that in mind. Now, for those of you who are here for Honesty's book introduction, I know you had a really wonderful treat with that. I want to remind all the ladies out here that are fairly new to this space, remember, not only that could be your story one day, okay? But you're going to hear from 6 marvelous women, and that can be your story too. And if you're struggling, you're new, you wonder which way to go, I'm telling you now, pay attention to these ladies. If you do, you will not regret it. Because in my assessment of our speakers tonight, you cannot have a better collection, not only females, but females in recovery than what you're going to listen to. I think they're all in recovery, except for the one. But anyways, strong, powerful lineup tonight. Our first speaker, somebody who I met many years ago. I've watched this woman excel, not only in recovery, but in life. I've seen her tackle every challenge she ever came her way and has overcome those challenges. And I'm always marveling and impressed with her existence period, but not only that, what she represents. And I'm going to let her tell you more about herself. Ms. D.L. Raines.
All right. Early 2003, sometime, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., in a recovery house, sitting on a scratchy couch. The 80s, I'm sure I'd been calling around looking for it. I had a feeling. Now, I'd seen these feelings around town, chugging coffee, avoiding the inevitable. I'm sure they had gotten the news. The recovery house manager had put me on restriction meetings and work. Now, this feeling was unbearable. All of a sudden, it came to me. Call somebody. This other word they had been talking about, inventory. What is this feeling? Do I want to run out screaming in the street? Eventually a car will go by. I can throw myself in front of it. No. Call somebody. I know who. She had been running me around all over town to meetings. She won't mind. Everybody said so. Doesn't matter how late it is. They all said so. She won't mind until she asks me, what's wrong? And I say, I don't know. Now, many times since then, I've needed a call, and I've called, except for that night. Instead is the first time I remember I picked up a pen for my recovery. Now, my writing and my love of writing has served me well throughout my recovery. It's given me a sounding board for my absurd rantings, and pages have opened up for truth. Pages have opened up for common sense. A sentence begins and ends, and a resentment appears, complete with a path to its resolution. And these resolutions always begin and end and are found within me. And problems settle, and they settle in ways that is easily recognizable for me. And then what I recognize is that there is no problem. I'm a person putting a foot out like everyone else. And I'm not a victim that's faced with some insurmountable shame. Now, creativity keeps my feet in this world where logic fails. Now, I take creativity walks. This is one of my solutions. I take creativity walks. There's no like phone. There's no social media. You know, I look up, I look around. You know, I pick a direction and I see what I see. File it away for future use like James Bond gadgetry, just in the nick of time. You know, I do take pictures, and there was this mural, and it said, nothing lasts. And nothing gives me any more comfort, because horror lasts no longer than delight. Around every corner is a fresh breath of air. And it's not that it's just a life worth living, but the willingness to do the work to keep breathing it. Now, creativity for recovery is not highbrow, I'm not worthy, stop, shut up, you've got nothing. Creativity for recovery is suffer less, feel everything, discover whatever. And creativity for recovery is whatever you want it to be. I dance in Wawa, and I don't care because they bring the jams. Have you ever noticed that? They bring the jams. And I don't care because I'm here. And it feels good. And creativity for recovery is about making it personal. And there's this book, it's called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and it's full of writing exercises and activities. And it had me drawing these stick figure cartoons about my childhood trauma. Now, I'm not exactly sure that's what it was supposed to be, but that's what it became for me. And she made a suggestion that you could just like X through the picture with a red marker, and I did make it personal. It was very cathartic and very gleeful as I was stabbing at the paper. Screw you, Daddy! Very cathartic, very gleeful, very releasing, you know. And making it personal for me is, you know, I kind of started out writing like I could, I should, I didn't, I never. And then, you know, just like years passed, and eventually I just kind of got like tired of that. And it became, I can choose. For a while it was like, I can choose, I can choose. And then eventually it became, I choose, I choose, I choose. And 3 weeks ago I wrote, today I'm gonna make 3 calls to book 1 appointment to talk about my Thank You, I'm Open writing classes. And I walked down the hall, and there was Honesty, and she said, "Hey, what's up?" And we just started talking, and it just started pouring out. And it didn't feel weird. It didn't feel unnatural. It didn't feel like I've got to come in here and tell her about who I am and all this stuff. It was just honesty. And I just said about how important like writing has been for my recovery, how it's the anchor of my recovery, and how I have this big passion about helping people to see that it's not about being a writer. It's not about grammar. It's just about like just 5 minutes. I've taken to shredding my pages every few days because I don't want my family to come in and think they're going to find some secrets about me and be really like blown away with how many times I write thank you to my body for having like a, you know, really good clean elimination that day, you know? So like we got to talking, and I believe the first week in April that we're going to start writing classes for recovery here at McShin. And that's the day that she asked me, did I want to be here and speak? And here I am, and I'm speaking, you know? And some years ago, I started writing Thank You, I'm Open. It was kind of like a punctuation. And I just started kind of writing, you know, the things that I wanted. I realized I didn't have to ask. And that had come a long time through my recovery. I remember the first time down the street from the recovery house, I was pumping gas, and I just heard in my head, it was like, go get some crap. And I was like, what? Because I realized it was just here, you know? And these days, that's not my life. You know, I'm not waking up like with that struggle. I'm waking up in the struggle that are really kind of the luxury variety, you know, most days. And all of a sudden, you know, dreams and kind of going back to that place before the chaos got completely out of control. And what that kind of frightened me, not just the family of origin stuff, but the stuff that was in me that I was really afraid of. Like that I got kind of scared back in the corner, like it was too painful to try to do anything. So I'll just like, yeah, this is really fun, you know, and then it wasn't fun for a really long time, and I just kept doing it, and I just couldn't stop doing it. And so the Thank You, I'm Open idea just started kind of coming after long bouts of gratitude that I just realized I don't need a list. I don't need to force myself to make a list. It was just like, there's coffee in the lobby and I can drink it because I don't have any money in my bank account, and this is really good coffee. It like grinds the beans and makes the coffee, and I just drank it for a really long time and I don't have any money. And I was just like, this is great, you know? But anyway, I started to write. I love to travel. It's so easy for me to travel. And I wrote everything that I loved about traveling. And one of the things that I wrote about traveling was that I'll be sitting, watching the sunrise somewhere, drinking a delicious cup of coffee with my pen and my paper. It's very easy to think about how much you love to travel when you got the money in your bank account to do it. And at the time I didn't. But within a few months, I was in Guatemala, hair standing up on my arms thinking about it, watching a sunrise with my pen and my paper and the most delicious cup of coffee. Don't quite know how I got there. Well, I kind of do, but I can't tell on the person that helped me get there. But anywho, I had $200 spending money, and I was in Guatemala. Not that I needed that kind of proof. But when I came back home, I realized I don't need to be in fancy locations. I started going to the park. I started finding different ways to just create that kind of luxurious feeling for myself. Thank you, I'm open. You know? And I walked in and saw honesty, and I'm here today, and I'm speaking, and I'm like, thank you, I'm open. And it all just kind of started with this right here. You know? I don't need to chain smoke cigarettes and run my pie hole with the gusto of a hound dog to make me feel better about who I am today. Now, in the beginning, that kind of kept me coming back. But today, I can be alone. I can see what's in my heart. I can let go of what's in my mind, and I can just keep coming back because, thank you. Thanks for letting me share.
Well, I got to tell you what, man, you had me on the edge of my seat. That was a very good talk, man. You know, I'm so glad so many of y'all got to see that one, man. because I've known DL for quite a while. I didn't know that about you, so I learned something myself tonight. You know, our next speaker, another young lady, I had the privilege of meeting when they were fresh in the McShin space anyways, in recovery. And, you know, I respect folks that don't tolerate my shortcomings, right? I really do, you know, and that's how I grow and become the man I am, because I watch people, I listen. Sometimes I can be assertive, too assertive, and sometimes people let me know that. And I learn from those folks. And, you know, Kelley is one of those women, man, you know, and she'll let you know if you're too assertive. And, but I got to watch this young lady come in fresh and new in recovery, excel in her recovery, follow suggestions, and now she's just rising high and fast like a Scud missile heading over the desert, man. I mean, she's killing it in recovery, you know, and she's being what she's supposed to be in recovery. And I'm very proud of her for that. And we'll let her come up here and tell you more about it. Kelley? Very proud.
And just so y'all know, like, I didn't know I was a missile. Like, I didn't know that I was, like, what I was doing was, like, mean. Like, I didn't think I was a mean person is what I'm trying to say. I thought I was, like, this sweet, innocent girl when I got here. So, and that day, well, I'll talk about that because that was an interesting experience. So I'm Kelley. I'm a person in long-term recovery. Thank you, Honesty, for asking me to speak. What an honor. When you called and asked me, I was just like, wow, I can't even believe, you know, when someone asked me to speak, which I'm not much of a speaker, but someone sees something in me, you know? So it's really an honor to speak for you. So, you know, I'm going to start with the day that I feel like I had a spiritual experience. That's where I'm going to go to. I'm not going to go before that. I'm just going to start about that day. And, you know, something happened where I called my mom and asked for help. And, I'm so grateful for that day and that moment, and that my parents were there and they knew to come get me. They were living in New Hampshire and I was in New Jersey. And they drove down 5 hours and picked me up that night. And, you know, I didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, I didn't think I had a problem with drugs. I didn't think that using meth all day long and all day night for 5 days was a problem. I really didn't. And I know it sounds funny, but I genuinely thought I needed to see a doctor. I just thought I needed to see like a psych doctor and I'd be good. And so that was my goal. That was like my plan. And I'm like, you know, so I ride home when we get in at like 6 a.m. and my girlfriend's still partying in New Hampshire, my party buddy in New Hampshire. And, she's like, come over. And I'm like, Mom, can I just go to Alicia's house? She's like, if you go to Alicia's house, you're homeless. Like, you're not going to have a place. I'm like, damn it. All right. So we'll go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, and it's like crazy how I was just, it was just crazy how much in denial I was. And, you know, I went to my first NA meeting 2 days later. I slept for like 2 days, and I went to my first NA meeting 2 days later at a homeless shelter. And I'd used before I went. So went there, and I was sitting in the back row, and this lady comes up to me and she's like, how'd you get here? And I was like, I walked. She's like, I think you're ready. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm sorry, I'll try not to swear. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, okay. So they took my vitals and I stayed, and I don't know what happened. And this is part of the, you know, topic is addiction solutions. Like, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I kind of just went with whatever I was told. I really did. And, you know, we were looking at places in New Hampshire and closer to where I was from. And I was like, I knew that wasn't a good idea because I knew I had connections. So I was like, I can't do that. So they had a connection here in Richmond, Virginia. And thankfully, my parents were able to get me on a flight. I took a flight that Friday, came here, and I just went with it. And for those of you that were here that saw me, I mean, I was coming off a meth, so I was a little crazy and I was a little like extreme, right? So let me tell you about extreme. Like you guys go to like, I don't say you guys, but like most people go choose like one fellowship and they might go to a couple meetings. I was doing like 5 meetings a day, AA, NA. I was a service position in AA and NA. I was doing area work for AA and NA. I went hard. Writing was huge for me. I developed these crazy habits in the morning, and I don't know, no one told me this. It was just something that I would do. I would get up at 4:00 in the morning. Now this is like going to sound a little crazy, but I'd get up at 4:00 in the morning. I would meditate, which was really hard for me as a meth addict. It was really hard to sit still. I would meditate. I would write my prayers because I couldn't think straight. I would write my gratitude list. Everything was thank you, thank you, thank you. For everyone that worked at McShin that time, I was writing thank you cards to them. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I wrote thank you cards. And I was just so unbelievably grateful. And I got to say real quick before I keep going with all this stuff that I did to chase my recovery, I got to McShin on a Friday, and then on Sunday night, my husband, but at the time I didn't know who he was, but he spoke at Sunday Hope at 6:00. It was outside, and something about what he said, and this is where I realized that I had a problem. This is where I realized that I was an alcoholic and an addict, but something in his story, and mind you, if anyone remembers me about this, I wrote in a journal for the first 6 months at every single meeting. So I have journals of every meeting that I went to for the first 6 months. And I have him in my journal. And it was something I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have a problem. And I realized in that moment that I was an addict and an alcoholic, and I called my parents the next morning, and I called and told them, and that was really when the work began. Like that was when I knew that I had to do this thing. Now, I also want to say, like, I support all pathways. There are so many different ways to get sober and clean. There are so many different things out there now that I 100% support, but this is me. This is my story. And, 12-step program is the way it is for me. It is 100% what has worked. So, like I said, I was going to AA and NA, and I was diehard in both. I got a service position on area level at 6 months, and it was like a 2-year clean time requirement, and I was 6 months, but I was wearing a tutu, and they were like, oh, she looks like a good candidate to be a literature chairperson. So literature chair is no joke. It's a tough position, and I did that for 2 years. So, service work was really important for me. And just doing those rituals every day was so important because it really created like a foundation for me in my future life, as I get more recovery time. So, and people were like, slow down, chill out. And I was just like, I just went with it. And then I met my husband, and which sounds great, but I didn't realize how bad of a partner I am. And I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I'm not a nice person. I have a lot of anger issues. I have a lot of jealousy issues. I have a lot of insecurity, fear. And so with the strength that I think I built in my first year of recovery, and like I said, every morning I was doing all those rituals, and exercising was really huge for me too. They were really important once I got married, once I met him, and we had a kid, and he has other kids, and it was a lot for me. It was a lot for someone that was living, doing everything I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it, and then all of a sudden taking in a bunch of kids and having a kid and being with a man. It was a lot for me. So my daily routines became really important. Sponsorship became really important. I had to find a sponsor that had what I needed. So she was a woman in recovery with a husband in recovery. So that was really important for me. And then step work is by far the most important part of this program for me. that's my pathway. The step work, I am on my 5th round of doing steps. You don't have to just do it once. And I'm obsessed. Like, I'm a little obsessed about doing steps. I'm like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And I know you don't have to do it again, but that's just what's had to happen for me. So, last year was a really tough year for me. I had 2 miscarriages, and it's crazy when you're going through something hard in recovery because you don't realize how strong you are, especially like going through it and not using. Like, you don't realize how strong you are. Like, you just don't realize, like, and then like because you're doing it, like, you're in it. And right now, 3 months into this year, and I just feel like this year, like, I feel so good because I look back at that and I made it through. And 5 years in recovery, I did some not nice things in my house, like some really things that I really have had to try to walk through. And I know that because of recovery, because of these steps, because of the guidance that I get and the women in my life, I become a better woman and a better person. And it's like, I was trying to think of all the things I wanted to say about addiction solutions. And it's just like, all of these solutions are what made me who I am today. And like, they make me this better person. And it's just so unreal. And, if you're in early recovery, I know it's hard, but like, just hold on tight because it is so worth it. Like, I wouldn't ever want to go back to that place again. So I think I can be done, right? Thanks.
I just spent 5 days on the road with your husband. And I'm thinking not anybody can be married to that man. You're a hell of a woman for that job. I feel your pain sometimes. So. When Honesty was talking earlier about her husband, I mean, I'm telling you what, it takes warriors to be married to warriors. It's that simple. And our next speaker, I can honestly say she saved my life more than once. And I mean, I know it can be difficult. I'm living proof. But my dad recently passed away just a couple of weeks ago. But my dad would always marvel at his son's selection in their wives and how he didn't think we were that smart, but we were damn lucky to get these women. And I was very lucky to get this next speaker to be my wife. I did catch her at a weak point in her life, though. That's true story too. And talk about the right place at the right time. But I know this woman. I know her history. I know her life. I know where she's been, what she's done, who she is, what she's doing, and hopefully where she's going. And we're hearing from all these great women tonight. And for you ladies out there, these are the women you want to try to get up in their hip pocket if you can. And for you men, when you're out there at the smoke shack selecting your next baby's mama, you might want to think about these, what you're looking into. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Carol McDaid, the McShin.
Hey everybody, I'm Carol and I'm a woman in long-term recovery. And for me, that means I've been alcohol and drug-free coming up on 25 years. I'm going to give a little bit of a different talk. When Honesty told me we were celebrating Women's History Month, I thought, let's give a little talk about the history of women in advocacy in our field. So like every March, we celebrate women's history, right? It's an annual observance of all the contributions that women have made to our society. And it's not just the contributions we've made for voting rights or women's equality in the workplace, women have also made a substantial contribution in the realm of recovery advocacy. And I am lucky enough to have turned my passion for recovery into my career. And it was not always easy. People who, politicians don't always want to hear from people who are representing the causes of people who have addiction and mental health disorders. They would rather hear from people who are representing the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, banking, you name it, all the big moneyed interest. But when I first started out being a lobbyist for people in or seeking recovery and the treatment providers, et cetera, that care for them, people used to still whisper the word addiction in Washington, D.C. It'd be like, oh, you're here about addiction? Let's go in the back room, It was just, people did not talk openly about their recovery like they do today. And that's one of the things that I think I'm proudest of as I look back on a 30-year career is that people do not whisper. They don't whisper to me about their individuals and their family or their loved ones or their colleagues or coworkers. They speak with their head up and high, and they still, of course, hit me up for a treatment bed for their loved ones, but it's not whispering out in the ante room or the coat closet about it. So I wanted to talk about two of the women that have been my sheroes as we think about Women's History Month. And the first one, but I also am not going to limit it just to that. Time permitting, I'm going to talk about how you can be an advocate in recovery. I'm all about growing where you're planted. And it's not, you don't have to be one of the women that were some of my role models. I'm going to talk to you about how I see, and we've heard from two great examples, three actually, tonight already, women who are leading the way and advocating for other women in recovery in our community. The first historical figure, though, I wanted to talk about that really made probably the biggest lasting contribution to women in recovery is a woman named Marty Mann. And Marty is thought to be the first woman who attained lasting recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. Born in 1904, Marty lived in a time when it wasn't okay to be a lesbian. Some think that is why she tried to commit suicide or whatever the right way to describe that is these days, 2 times before she reached her sustained recovery. And what Marty did for recovery, though, that what she's best known for is she went around the country, and her sponsor was Bill, one of the co-founders of AA. And he told her, look, as a person in recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous, I can't go out and preach the word, if you will, of AA because that would break our traditions. But you can, and you should go do it. And so Marty went across this country, and she had kind of 3 important tenets that when she went around and gave her talks, and this was really kind of the first time that this was all like really like breaking stuff in the 50s and 60s. And what she did was she talked about how addiction and alcoholism are an illness that's treatable. She talked about that the people that have it, alcoholics and addicts, are worth treating and worth saving, and that as such, addiction and alcoholism is a public health issue, and the public and policymakers ought to take responsibility and address it as a public health issue that it is, invest funding in it. And through her work, some of the first things like the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the National Institute on Alcoholism and Alcohol Abuse, all of those agencies in Washington were funded and founded because of the advocacy that Marty did. She also started what was known for over 50 years, and it only closed like 5-6 years ago, the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. And for, like I said, over 50 years through her work, they did prevention, public education, public awareness, And in the latter years, they started working on recovery-related issues too. McShin was a longstanding member of the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependency. And Marty deserves a debt of our gratitude, and all women who are recovery advocates who are advancing the cause for women in this space. She also continued on doing this work long after it became, she had in the heydays in the 70s and 80s, she did this event. She got all these Hollywood people to stand up and say, I am an alcoholic. And you have to be super old like me and John to have remembered this, but it was like a really big deal. They had it at the Kennedy Center, like a big award show. And about 50 celebrities stood up for the first time in this country in the 70s and said, I am an alcoholic publicly for the first time. And that was really a big deal. So thank you to Marty Mann. My second Shiro, and this one I got to meet and know personally. I didn't get to know Marty Mann. I just admired her career and her tenacity, was Betty Ford. And I think there's a picture of her going around. She is the woman in the middle with the blue pantsuit on. And she has a special place in my heart. She was the Betty Ford Center was the very first client I ever got on my own. And I can't tell you, as a kind of a younger lobbyist, having to go out and give a talk about Washington politics to a former sitting president and first lady, it was really, I was so nervous and everything. Betty Ford was President Gerald Ford's wife, and she served as first lady from 1974 to 1977. She was a Republican, and it was very shocking at the time. She supported the equal rights movement at the time for women and the Equal Rights Amendment when most Republicans were against it. And she spoke publicly about her challenges with breast cancer. And this, again, was at a time when people did not say the word breast in public. They just did not do it. It was just not considered for polite society to mention that word. And she talked openly about her struggles with breast cancer. She talked openly about getting a mastectomy. I can remember my father turning off the TV, thinking we kids shouldn't hear it. She was a groundbreaking woman of her time, and especially given some of the conservative politics that were going on in the country at that time, much like we have today. In the early 60s, Mrs. Ford was prescribed opioids for a pinched nerve, and the combination of prescription medications, prescription opioids, and alcohol spiraled, and her family decided they had to do an intervention on her, which was like one of the first interventions, for those of you who are in that field, that happened. And she went to treatment in 1978. And in 1982, she started a treatment program called the Betty Ford Center. And again, that was in Rancho Mirage, California. It's still around today, and it's partnered with Hazelden, and that's still a well-known treatment center today. The first time I went out to Betty Ford Center, I was just so intimidated, and I was lecturing my spouse, as unfortunately I'm accustomed to doing, about how to behave and how not to behave at this big event with, there was like a big board meeting and there was this cocktail hour and blah, blah, blah. And I'm busy because I am nervous about my own performance. What do? I start going underneath John's hood and telling him how to behave instead of worrying about how I should behave myself. I did a lot of that early on in our marriage, which I regret. So we get to this cocktail party, and John, is just in awe that he's meeting former sitting president. And he was a fan of President Ford's. And so he goes and shakes President Ford's hand. And I was just out of the corner of my eye looking, and I could see President Ford's knees buckle. Like John shook his hand so hard. And he was getting up in age by then, like they're 70s or 80s by then. And he just literally, I thought he was going to crash to the ground. And he looked John in the face and said, "You must be a Marine." He automatically knew this was a Marine thing to do. And I was so nervous giving that presentation to her, and she was not known to be a particularly warm woman. So, like, I'm trying to get the vibes, with people about, like, people like to smile and open up and warm up to me. And she's like this, stiff as a board. And I'm thinking, oh God, I'm blowing this presentation. And she came up to me at the end and she said, dear, just really formally like this, dear. And she put her hand in my arm. She goes, you have a gift for this. And when we have a gift, we must contribute. And I will never forget that because, of course, first I'm like so self-absorbed. I'm worrying about me blowing the political talk I was giving. But she gave me the confidence that I needed that day to continue to move forward in this area. It's not always easy as a woman, especially back then. I looked and acted young. I'm in my early 30s doing this work. A lot of senators are in their 70s and 80s, and most of them are men. And it was challenging. And I would remember what she had said to me, that you have a gift and you must contribute. And I continued to use that as a mantra. And I think one of the challenges we all have as women in recovery is finding out what is our gift. Not Honesty's gift, not DL's. What is your gift? And it's in there in all of us. And the great thing about recovery is that your world opens up and you get to be exposed to so many different things. And you can find out what your gift is. Mrs. Ford also told me that when she went to treatment, she was the biggest pain in the ass there. And she said all of this with a straight face and her like little delicate Chanel suits. And she said that's why at the Betty Ford Center, we always have a room with 4 women in it. And because we always want to make room for the Bettys of the world, meaning the women that are the biggest pain in the asses. And we always make sure they get bathroom duty first. And to this day at the Betty Ford Center, despite its pretty nice surroundings, there is still quad rooms where whoever complains the loudest gets put in the quad room and is doing bathroom duty. So that really impressed me, even though I was intimidated by her, that she recognized she could be a pain in the ass, which she was, and very particular, and that she could laugh about herself in recovery. And those are also things that I appreciate about myself because I have a little bit of some of those qualities myself. I think that the last story I'll tell about her, we were calling on a particular senator, and he told her that he didn't believe addiction was a disease and that her career had been a waste of her fabulous talents and she should have spent them in the breast cancer movement. And she looked over at me and she said, Carol, I think this meeting is over. And I was stunned at this whole, the senator had insulted her and that she was just going to walk out on him. I mean, he was like slack jawed that she'd like blown off the meeting over it. And she told me that a year later he had called to try to get help for his son. And she told them that their beds were full permanently. So she did have a little bit of revenge, which was not one of the qualities that I like to admire. But I think, the important thing is how can all of us advocate? Because advocacy is not just people like me that work in the political realm, far from it. Advocacy is about seeing a woman in need and helping her fight for herself and teaching her how to fight for herself to get what she needs in recovery. And what are some of the ways that you can be an advocate for women in recovery? First of all, be a good advocate for yourself and have a positive recovery yourself and role model that for other women around you. So you've got to seek and be an active member of a support group of other women. You've got to show sponsees that a recovery posse is a critical part of recovery because you can have the most fabulous sponsor in the world, and we all have them. But if you don't have a support group, your recovery is not enriched. Attend to your personal recovery, physical, spiritual, and mental. Absence alone is not enough to sustain you over long term. Be a good listener. An old sponsor of mine used to tell me that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, Carol. You're supposed to listen more and talk less. You've got to hear between the lines of what newcomers are saying to know how to help them. Don't judge was my 4th thing about being a good advocate for people. Don't judge. Enough said there. Just don't do it. It's my experience that anything I ever judged a woman for, I've ended up doing, unfortunately, myself. And fifth, time is the most valuable asset that any of us have. You can't get it back, can you? And when you give your full time and attention to someone, that's the greatest gift you can ever give them, better than anything material that you can find. So I know I'm sitting in a room of women recovery advocates. I give you all, like, I'm just so incredibly amazed at the great work that many of you have done as I sit here before you. I'm in awe of it. And I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Now I hung on to that little sentence. Just listen. Oh, I'm so glad I come tonight. Anyway, we break time. No break. We're gonna roll right through it. All right. Well, man, it's getting ready to get better now because now I get to introduce Honesty to come up here and introduce our next speakers. That's how this works. She wrote it down for me. I'm following the directions, man. Honesty, Liller.
Yeah, so thank you all again. Y'all are amazing. I mean, thank you for teaching me how to advocate because I didn't want to when I lived in McShin and they were taking me around. And John's like, we got to do news stories and all this. And I was like, no, 12-step, I can't. But y'all taught me how to do it. And I'll never forget the biggest advice ever Carol's given, well, ton throughout my whole life. But, you know, advocacy and policymakers put on one pant leg at a time, just like us. Everybody is human, right? So, and I tell that to all the girls, everybody in this field. So, all right. So we have 3 more speakers. The first one coming up next, and it's in the book. It's kind of like about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, I had an unspiritual awakening. And it was more of like, what is my life? What am I doing here? Just the monotony of life, you know, working, kids, husband, working, kids, husband, dogs, all of that. So I just kind of had this not a good time in my life. And I had to change a lot of things about my personal recovery and change some things in my marriage and went to therapy and all kinds of things. And this woman, Mosey, I saw Moses, he walked past my office. I was like, who should I get? Because I do a little bit of 12-step as a, you know, I needed a new, you know, 12-step sponsor. And he said, what? Moses always pauses and he looks up in the abyss and he's like, call Kareemah. And then I called and we've had a beautiful relationship and she's been able to show me so much about myself because you take away those drugs and you got a lot more to work on when you have a longevity of recovery. So with that, I give you Kareemah Gray.
In my usual fashion. Hi, family, I'm Kareemah. It feels better if I feel like I'm amongst family, and I do. I've been in the recovery process now since February 17th of 1995, so I've been recovering for 27 years thus far. And I thought about this, and then I tried not to think about this, and then I kept thinking about this until now it's right here. Okay, and what I got from that is I kept thinking of the 3 L's. There were 3 L's that brought me here, held me while I was here, and gave me the inspiration to keep staying here and being available to other people. And the first thing that was to listen. In the beginning, all I really wanted was somebody just to listen to me. I wasn't quite sure what I was talking about, didn't know what the problem was. I just wanted somebody to listen to me because I got so tired of listening to the voices that was in my head. I got so tired of listening to people tell me how I had a problem and needed to do something about it. It wasn't until someone decided that they would just listen to me. And that happened by way of me coming into the fellowship. And when I did that, there was this woman that her name was Sheila, and she was like really big in stature. So it was my first meeting. I thought I was coming there to support my friend, so I was just on a listening tip. trying to find out what the good gossip was. Because I heard some stories in this fellowship, right, that made me want to come to a meeting every day because I wanted to find out, well, what else happened? I had no idea that I was supposed to come in there and begin to understand how to advocate and speak for myself. In the beginning, I was listening to hear your story because I didn't even know I had one. And I stayed long enough, and I stayed a year, and then I thought it was some things that were supposed to happen by me staying there. I thought it was like a reward program, like you stay there for a year, and then people are going to come to you with a ton of balloons, and they're going to give you a medallion, and they're going to tell everybody how wonderful you are, and all of that stuff. But because I had not listened well enough to tell my own story, I didn't do any talking while I was there. So a lot of people were not available to give me that kind of stuff that I was looking for. And I left, and I wound up leaving for 3 more years and coming back. And the experience while being away traumatized me. It brought me right back into the rooms where I could actually get the help that I needed. And then I learned how to listen a different way. I listened, so I started to listen to see who I felt comfortable talking to, because I knew that I needed to talk, but I still wasn't quite ready, because it seems like you guys had it going on. There was a certain system that I didn't quite understand yet. So I didn't know if I could jump right into your conversation and be a part of what it was you were talking about. So I did a lot of listening, and I listened during the meeting to the speaker. And then after that, I listened to the people who had something to say after the speaker spoke. And then I started listening to the people after the meeting and how they were talking. And then I started to see that there were some people before, during, and after the meeting that made me feel a little bit comfortable. There was something about them that I could relate to. So my listening changed. I listened so I could learn how to express my thoughts and express my feelings. And then before you know it, I felt my hand go up, and I started talking to people and telling them about things that were going on with me. And then, right, it was this other thing that was starting to happen. And it was the second L. I started to learn stuff. And the first thing I started to learn was that I wasn't a bad person. I actually was so fortunate to find out that I wasn't completely out of my mind. I was just a person who had a problem. It was called a disease, and there were ways to manage it. So now that I learned that, I started like wanting to know, well, how do I get better? And they told me that we got everything you need is right in here. And I started to do like step work and discover things about myself and understand that these were things called triggers. I had no idea what the heck that was. People, places, and things. I started learning how to manage myself and navigate myself in the rooms and outside of the rooms, because now what I was learning on the inside, I was getting to exercise it on the outside. Like when they told me to come to the meeting as often as I could, I started going to work as often as I could. When they started telling me to raise my hand and share my story, I was able to explain to people how I felt about whatever it was that was going on between the two of us. And before long, right, I stayed for a while, and I started, as another person said, like everything, I think every position NA has had to offer, except for like something maybe on area level, I have done. I have made it a point to advocate for Narcotics Anonymous, to be a part of Narcotics Anonymous, and understand it on every level. Because the more I learned about it, the more I learned about me. And then like I stayed here and I started to do some stuff, and people were seeing me involved in things, and people were calling me by my name, and that was making me feel good. And they weren't calling me by my name like they calling me in the office. They were calling my name like they were actually happy to see me, or they were familiar with me, or I shared something in a meeting that helped them. And in the process of these people coming to me and saying these things, my last L started to happen. Love started to happen. I loved being in that kind of an atmosphere. I loved seeing those people who were calling me by my name. And I loved them so much that I learned their names and was calling them. I loved the fact that even though the meeting was over, I still had ways and means to connect with them. And I loved the fact that my life was changing. It began to have meaning. It began to have purpose. So I'm a writer all the time. I got like so many different notebooks. If I die, people could put that together and make it a book, right? Listen, I write all the time. And I write because in the process of me, I learned how to express myself through words. Anyway, I had a talent for it in school. I used to write poems, plays, all that kind of stuff. So writing never was a chore for me. But when I got to Narcotics Anonymous and I got to the place where it taught me how to deal with my addiction, when I wrote, it was soul cleansing. It was a time for me to say the things that I might have been scared to say to you, but me and the paper, we got along really well. Like, and listen, the paper talked back. I know that sounds crazy, but it did. You write down stuff, and then it go, oh, wait a minute. Don't leave that part out. Well, what about this? It actually starts to talk to you. And the more I started, expressing myself on paper, I began to see myself more vividly, and I began to love me. I loved me and my fractured parts. Those parts of me that writing showed me was broken and needed to fix. It gave me the confidence to go to my sponsor and say, you know what, I was writing the other night and I found out that this is going on with me. Or I was minding my business, taking a walk, and I saw the tree and leaves and everything, and it told me that I had still had a selfish spot. Or that I'm beginning now to open up and appreciate the little things. Like all of this stuff. Step work is a magical place to be. Some people will come in here and give you some terrifying stories about, oh my God, I did the 4th step and it's scared. Listen, the 1st step scared me. That one scared me. The 4th step freed me. It allowed me to tell the truth about myself on the most intimate and teeny weeny level in the first beginning. Because when I first did it, I thought it was my chance to write my autobiography of all the beautiful things I had done in my addiction and how, I was this big successful person who had suitcases full of money in the closet. Part of that was true, right? So I took the piece that was exciting and like ran with it. And at that time, when I came into recovery, we did not have a work step in God or whatever you call that thing, where you actually ask significant questions. We didn't have that when I came in. So all we had was heart to heart. We sat there. She listened to me. I learned some stuff. And she loved me even though I told her all that yucky stuff. So those 3 L's carried me through. And it made it possible now for me to sit and listen to my sponsees when they come to me and they're fragile and broken pieces. And I still tell them that even though I've been able to glue the pieces together, my life is such that I still can see the cracks. I still can see the places that I put the glue. I still can see that if you touch it in a certain way, it still might break. So I still have a reason to be here. And it's not to save you, it's for us to save each other. Like, it's real clear to me that no matter where my addiction took me in the past, that was just a platform for where it now my recovery takes me in my future. Like, I too am embarking on about to start my own business. I've started one aspect of it, and that frightened little girl came right back. Whenever it was something brand new, all of those little broken pieces started showing up again, and they was rocking a little bit. And I thought that I had it together, and I did, but it was only for that part of me. As I stay here and evolve in my recovery, I know now that, like, I'm a different person. So sometimes, just like a tire in the summer or in the winter, it expands or it decreases. And it's okay, because life is such that I can have times when I'm super strong and can do anything and everything going well and I got all the answers, or I think I got all the answers. But then when I check with the people that love me, I find out that I don't. But then there are going to be times when I'm still fragile. There are going to be times when I'm still feeling like I'm not sure and I don't know how. But it's that last L that keeps me coming back every time, because no matter what kind of condition I am, there is always somebody to love me. And this is how they love me. They see me and they smile. They don't even have to say anything. Sometimes they see me and they go, hey, Reem, come here. And they tell me about what's going on with them. Or they'll say, you know, Reem, I've been watching you and I just want to tell you that I see you. Listen, you don't have to see me doing great. You don't have to be expecting greatness out of me. But the fact that you allow me to know that you see me and I matter is what keeps me coming back. And also the fact that somebody did that for me and did it so eloquently and gracefully and made it so that I really understood that I'm valued here, that it makes me now scout the room and looking for that girl that's fragile, just like I was. And I can spot you. You can't hide from me. I don't care if you try to change your facial expression. I don't care if you see me looking at you and you try to look this way or whatever. Because it's not you, it's what's in you, it's what's radiating from you that people like us who have invested in our recovery is able to see. It's the spirit, it's the inside stuff, it's the stuff that has no real name. It's that something that they talk about in Narcotics Anonymous literature and other places. It's that something. I tell my sponsees a lot of times, we are not going to focus on the negative. There is a blueprint for the negative that will never change. We know what it is, we know what you did, we know how it turned out. But what's more important to me is the blueprint of where do we go now? And wherever we go, however we go there, we have to have those 3 L's. You have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to learn. You're going to learn some fascinating things about yourself outside of the fact that, like, I have learned that, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay not to know. I'm so glad I didn't have to come in here and know everything, because you probably would have put me out the first week. I'm so glad that I gave myself a break. Through that ability to listen, I learned that I am important enough to save. And I learned that by listening. I learned that by listening to the words on a page of a basic text sometimes, on a CD while I'm driving in my car. I learned how to do that by watching the same person that I'm too intimidated to say hello to come to every meeting that I attend, until that one day I'm able to walk up to them and go, hi. I just want to say hi. And they reach out, instead of shaking my hand, they reach out to give me a hug. That's the stuff. Those 3 L's keep me going on a lot of days. When I'm fearful, and I am, of this new venture that I'm taking on, I'm enthusiastic. But one thing I knew I had to do was I had to begin to listen. And the first person I had to listen to is me. I had to listen to that voice inside that says, you really want this. You really want this, even though it's scaring you, even though you don't know how to do it, even though it's never been done by you before, it's still okay to try. Right? And now I'm learning. Once I surrendered that and understood that I needed to learn some stuff, I started reaching out to people who had it, people who were doing it like I wanted it to be done. I had to let go of people who were stifling me and keeping me from getting it done. And once you do step work, you will learn how to decipher those folk. It's just like being in the street. We knew what house we were not going to get high in, and we knew what house we were. We knew when it was time to get in, and we knew when it was time to get out. Those same things apply to me now, but it's only on a recovering and an experiencing life on a new level. I'm excited for me. I'm excited for me, even though I don't know where a lot of stuff is going to come from. But I've been invested in my recovery long enough to know that it is coming. And it's going to come by divine order. And it's going to come with those 3 L's. It's going to come if I listen for it. I'll be able to hear it in the quiet of the night or even in a busy part of the day. I'll learn some things from it. I've learned that I'm pretty good at this, and maybe I might not want to try that no more. I'll learn it that way. But in all that I do in love. Anybody who comes across me, I'm invested in finding out what's the best part of you so that I can reach in there and find the best part of me to help you. I'm not afraid of getting to know people. Honesty has given me an opportunity to get into her life in a way that makes me comfortable and she's comfortable as well. We're able to invest honest conversation into each other. We don't BS. I don't have expectations of her, but I do look over my glasses sometimes when she's talking, and we both know what that means. She is able to say to me, no, that is not what I meant. And I appreciate that, because guess what? Some people think that sponsors float on water and everything they tell you is exactly right. That is a human being who has had the same issues of life that you have, maybe in different areas of life, but we are still people that need to be guided. And that's the way I treat our union. We guide each other. She says something, I guide her that way. When we get over there, she guides me this way. We've been able to honor that two-way street, and we've done it eloquently, and we've done it with the 3 L's. Don't go anywhere without those. I'm always looking for something to learn. I know that it's important for me to listen. The only person I don't listen to a lot of time are the people that's at my house. I kind of jump in because, that's kind of my domain. So when I say, I really want you to sweep the floor, I'm not trying to listen to see what your answer is going to be to that. I just want you to sweep the floor. I'm not open to a lot of things when it comes to stuff like that. I got a certain way that I like to live, and trust me, Khalil will tell you that, like, she don't play about the house. Okay. But the other thing that I'm hoping he will be able to tell you is that I don't stand here and perform or pretend to be anything. When I tell you I have a passion for Narcotics Anonymous and I respect the gifts that it offers me and I do it in love, I think he will be able to tell you, yes, that is true about me. One thing I want to do is tell you all that the way that it's designed, you will receive all the things that I just talked about before you even have to begin to give it back. That's awesome. To have somebody that will sit and listen to you talk about crazy stuff like whatever. Because when I think of the conversations that I used to have with my sponsor when I first came through the door, like, I don't know why she looked at me like that. When I walked by, she just looked at me and I don't know what she's saying. Well, what is her problem? Why is she looking? And my sponsor used to do things like this, just tilt her head. Or when I thought I was writing an autobiography and she looked at me and said, that's not why we're here. You know, all of those things, but everything that was done, even to the come here, sit down, please don't move. If you need water, get water now, but don't move again. Because I got up and went to the coffee pot 6.5 billion times when I first got into the rooms. And part of that was because of the type of drug that I was using. I could not sit still. There was no such thing as sitting still when you did crack cocaine. You had to keep moving. I went to the window, to the bed, to the chair, to the bathroom. Then after a while, I just went in the bathroom and never came out. But even in there, I was turning water on, I was turning water off. I was wiping things, I was flushing toilets. I was busy. So when I came in here and had to learn how to be still, I couldn't listen because I was all over the place. But now I'm in a place now where I can listen. And staying here long enough has taught me how to listen to the most valuable person I've been able to find since I've been here, and that's me. I've been able to listen to me. I know how I feel now. Now, not always, but I do have a good idea. I've been able to invest and internalize and listen to myself to a point where I know when it's time to call my sponsor. I don't need another person to tell me that. There's a voice inside and I know how she sounds. And when I hear her, I know it's time to check her in with some help. I've also listened to the person who has lost dreams and they're awakening now. And I'm learning how to respect her because she's been sitting quietly waiting for her turn. And it's her turn now. So I have to treat her with that last L. I got to love her. I got to love her for putting the inspiration in me. I got to love her for being able to walk with her and carry that out. And I know it sounds crazy when you're talking about yourself in third person. But when I got high, it was always 3 people in the room. It was me, myself, and I, and all of us was crazy. So now I'm feeling good about being in a place where it's my mind, my body, and my soul. And we're all ready to see what those 3 L's can do in the future. Thanks for letting me.
So my unspiritual awakening has gone away thanks to Kareemah. So, all right. So I get the fortune to have a career, in this building at the McShin Foundation. I get to see all these beautiful young women come in behind me and get employment at this organization. Because when I lived here, there was no woman staff. So now we have a ton of women. Hey. That work here now, which is beautiful. So, and Christina has been through a lot with her, and she'll share, it's been a tough year for you, her first year of recovery, and you've been through the ringer already. So I can't imagine where life's going to take you after this. So with that, I give you Christina Davis.
So the obsession about this night is driving me insane. Honesty came to my office a couple of weeks ago and was like, hey, are you going to be in jail at the end of the month? Because I would like you to speak. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be in jail. But I did go to court. And due to being in this program and what McShin has done for me, I got to walk out of court with 4 years suspended and off of papers in June. So, yeah. So when she came to my office, I had no idea. She's like, yeah, by the way, it's not virtual anymore and it's live. So I was like, oh, that's great. But my name is Christina. I am a person in recovery and my sobriety date is 4/21/21. It means I'm coming up on a year, God willing, that I will be sober, and I will make it to that year. On April 21st of 2021, I woke up in my car, overdosed, being Narcan by the police. I had 2 years clean without a program, basically. I thought that I could do it myself. I had gotten out of a DOC program, which was about 18 months. So I had the last 6 to 8 months that I was doing myself. That might not be the right math, but I was trying to do it on my own. COVID had hit. So basically there were no meetings. I wasn't really willing to put in the work for myself. So I would go to the War Foundation with a friend of mine, and I would go to meetings there. And then they closed that. They were like, we cannot have anyone else come. COVID has hit. So within a matter of weeks, I relapsed. It wasn't a very long run. My probation officer had gained so much trust in me that she said, I don't have to see you for months. You know, just call and check in. Everything's fine. I had a job, was doing well, so everyone thought, but underlying, I was actually still using, not doing good at all. I told her I had COVID. I did not have COVID. I actually went to see her and was right in front of her, and she was like, have you been exposed? Yes, ma'am, I have. I have been exposed. I cannot come in to see you. So basically, I went home that night and I prayed. I was like, God, I cannot do this anymore. I don't know what to do. Help me. Got in my car the next day to go to work and woke up. The last time I looked at the clock on my car, it said it was 2:28. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be late to work. When I woke up again, I was being pulled out of my car by the police. I had been unconscious, drove for 1.5 miles, and wrecked my car into the side of a grocery store. I could have killed people, but thank God I did not hit anyone. I drove in very busy traffic for over 1 mile. So that's definitely my sign at that point. When I woke up in jail, my first thought, I'm going to be honest, was I shouldn't have did so much. But the thing is, it wouldn't matter if it was a lot or a little. It was just my answer that God was giving me, that if you can't help yourself, I'm going to help you. So I was in jail, and I had heard about the McShin program, and I was like, well, what's that? Like, I've tried other programs. I got a friend of mine to call here, and I got accepted to McShin. I got transferred here by the sheriff, and I was court ordered here in the beginning. So I went to court I got out June 10th, and I did the program. I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I graduated July 8th. And after that, I had a blessing she was in my room. Her name is Monique. She was my roommate, and I got the honor of being able to see her at the front desk. And I used to come in, and I was like, I want to do what you're doing. She was like, I like your shoes. So I was like, we're going to be friends. We're going to be friends. And basically, she was like, well, you can, if you want to be able to do things here, all you have to do is ask. So I started to volunteer at the front desk, and then I just noticed she would be up late at night, like doing things on the computer. I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm AmeriCorps. I was like, well, what's AmeriCorps? And she explained to me what AmeriCorps was. AmeriCorps is Our Healthy Future Opioid Epidemic Program. Yeah, our Future Healthy Opioid Epidemic Program. So basically, it's through the city of Richmond. Sorry, I'm nervous. It's through the city of Richmond, and I get to work for the McShin Foundation and be a person that has actually come through the opioid epidemic. If it wasn't for this program, I have had a lot go on this year. So I ended up going in the hospital December 8th for surgery. Well, I got rushed into surgery. I had no idea that it was as bad as it was. They told me you're not leaving. I'm an opioid user. So when they started administering me medication, I was like, you can't give me this. I'm in recovery. And they're like, well, we are sorry, you're going to have surgery. So ended up having 3 surgeries within 10 days, like back to back to back. And I remember my grandparents coming to see me, and my friend told me when you left was like, what's that stuff making her itch? And I was like, it's the things that I used to put in my body to fill a void, because that's all I knew. So I told the nurse, like, at the very end of me being there, I was like, I don't know what we have to do, but I have to continue on the path of recovery. There is no way that I can get out here with you administering me the medicine that you're giving me with being able to be successful in my recovery. So they weaned me down off of it, and I ended up coming out of the hospital, came back to work, and 3 days later caught COVID. So I was out of work again. So I was basically out of work the whole month of December. And when I started working here, I was at the front desk, then I got the AmeriCorps position, and I do a lot of work for the new intakes that come in, the new participants. We have a 28-day program here, as everyone knows, and I went through that. So to be able to help the women that are in that program, and I also deal with a lot of the men too, being up here, it's just a really great experience because I get to see people come in exactly like I was. I mean, I actually had 55 days clean in jail when I got here. So I do count my clean time in jail because there were things accessible in jail, but I just was done at that point. I wanted to make sure that I put my recovery first. My grandparents are here, and I remember at one point I couldn't come in their house because they couldn't trust me. My high school best friend is here. Like, these are the gifts that I never thought that I would gain back, is to have people support me and be proud of me because I couldn't even look in the mirror. And today I know that the 12-step program that I'm in saves lives. Like, my first meeting that I ever went to was court ordered. And at the end of the meeting, when they said they gave out chips, I literally was like, I like Doritos. And they're like, keep coming back. So basically, yeah, I had no idea. I was oblivious. That was in 2009. And I'm coming up on 40 years of age. So that was quite a while ago. And now that I've had a taste of recovery, I don't want to put it down. Thank God for that. I don't want to put it down. Like, it's just, I've had great people assist me through this process. I know I have gotten on people's nerves. I have come and bombarded her a few times. I'm like, what are we talking about again? And she's like, just relax. I'm like, I don't like to talk in front of people, but I know if I want to further myself in my career path, which is going to be recovery, I am a general manager at a restaurant right now, but I would like to devote my time to recovery because this is what keeps me sober. So I'm going to try to make that transition as soon as possible because if I know that if I stay around recovery, if I live recovery, that I will be sober. So that's basically what I'm going to do with my life. And I'm just glad to have you guys here tonight to support me. And I love you guys. And I thank all of the women that are in my network. I have built some women in my network, Miss Brenda. I do have a significant other that they were like, your boyfriend cannot be just your network. So I was like, okay, I'll get some women in it. You know, he supported me through this journey. He was with me. He's not one of us. So at the end of the day, he lost a family member, his father, to a direct result of substance use disorder. So he knows what it's like, but he's not an addict due to seeing his parents be like that. So at the end of the day, he is very supportive of my recovery. And I was like, well, he's all I need. They're like, you really need to get a network because if you have a network of strong women, then you can actually do more conversation with them than you wouldn't want to do with your boyfriend. And I was like, okay. So I do have a network of women now, and I'm very proud of the women that I have in my life because you guys are role models. Monique, you're a role model for me. Jill's definitely a role model for me. Miss Brenda, my recovery coach. Like, I thank you women for being the pathway to my recovery. Am I good?
All right, you did perfect. So the last speaker tonight, we actually just met last week. We were at this conference and we sat beside each other because we do the exhibitor tables. So she was my partner in a bunch of stuff. So we got to chat. And one of my visions and one of my dreams before I leave this earth is to start a women and children's house at McShin. So anyone out there, if you have a grant I can apply for, or would you like to make a nice donation to McShin, let me know. Because the need is huge because you're really the only organization that does that I know of in Richmond, Virginia. So we got to chat and she's telling me what she was what she does, which is a huge passion. Y'all heard some of my personal story with my daughter. And she's the sweetest thing ever. And I just wanted her to talk about kind of her path, but also what they do in the community to help women and children. So Makita Lewis.
Good evening, and thank you, Honesty, and I am so grateful to be here to share with you all this evening. My name is Makita Lewis, and I'm a program manager at the Richmond Behavioral Health Authority's RBHA Women's Residential Treatment Center, as Honesty shared with you. At this center, we provide intensive treatment for women who are single or married, women who are pregnant or not, women who are parenting with or without their children, women who are ages 18 years and older. We provide intensity, high intensity and low intensity treatment for women and women's services. We're located in the north side of Richmond on the North Campus, which formerly was known as Rubicon. RBHA brought the entire campus and realized, like Honesty said, that women needed this intensive treatment. We're also fortunate to be one of 3 facilities in Virginia that provide services for pregnant and parenting women. We're also fortunate to be able to allow women to bring their children with them to reside in treatment. We just renovated a child services center that has 3 spaces, one for newborns and infants, one for toddlers, and one for school-aged children. It also houses our early intervention and Part C services, so children can be referred and assessed right there on the campus. So we are so excited about all of that. But I am very fortunate because I wish I had known. Next time I'm gonna ask you honestly, because my jeans and my tennis shoes and my jean shirt are in the car because I changed clothes. I changed clothes right before coming here. And I changed clothes because on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do admissions. And like I said, I'm the program manager, but I'm always in the back for admissions. I'm a social worker at heart and will always be one. I've worked with women and children since about 2003 and has always had a passion for women and children. My first removal was in Louisa County, and I just developed this relationship with this young couple. They lived out in a trailer way, way out, but I knew something was wrong. She was always sleepy when I came to see her. I was like, what? And I was just green, straight out of BC. I was like, why is she always so sleepy? And then I went back, my supervisor said, she's not sleepy, she's high. And I was like, oh, okay, I got it, okay. So I'm gonna build a bond with her though. I'm going out there every day because that little boy is in that trailer with her and her boyfriend comes to visit. So I built a bond with her. I got to know her grandparents. I'm gonna visit them as well. So it got to the point things were deteriorating. She was hiding from me. And one day she drove up to Ashland. I worked on Route 1 in social services, brought that little boy to me and said, I can't do it anymore. Take him to my grandmother's house. And she said, you're the kindest, greenest social worker I have ever met, but I trust you. And I was like, from then on, I've never looked back. Never looked back. And I said, women need help. Women need services. Why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she come in? So still today, the reasons are denial, shame, guilt, fear. This morning, I just met an intake in the back in our admissions room, head down. I walked straight over to her. I said, I'm Miss Lewis. I'm the program manager. I said, how are you? She said, I ain't feeling too good. I said, okay. I said, well, what's the matter? She said, I tried to take my own life. And I said, okay. And she said, I'm sick. And I said, okay. Well, tell me the rest. And she said, I really want to go out the door because I'm sick. And I said, okay, well, you just came from the hospital. She said, I only stayed in there a day. I said, but you just came from the hospital. And the peer looked over and said, ask her why she's sick. And I said, why you sick? And she said, I haven't used in 2 days, Miss Lewis. I'm sick and I'm scared. And I said, but guess what? You're here. You're here. And I want you to just take 1 hour at a time. We have nurses here, doctors here, peers here. And by then I said, just one hour at a time. And she said, I'm gonna try. So this is what goes on all week. Older women, pregnant women, younger women. Some women aren't ready. Some women come to the door pregnant and they leave and they tell me they're not ready. And I said, you'll be back and we'll be here. So we've had pregnant women close to delivery, deliver, go to the hospital, come back with their newborn, bond with their newborn in treatment. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful sight to see. They open up and they share. They talk about their triggers. They tell me things like, I'm so glad to be here, but I can be honest here. I'm breastfeeding my child. That's what they tell me. My veins are popping up and I'm triggered. And I said, give me a peer immediately. Give me a peer immediately because you're not leaving. She said, no, I'm not leaving. I said, give me the nurse, give me the child care tech immediately. And we're going to work through this. And we do. And we talk to them about their brain and how I know what you're feeling, what you want. I said, but your brain has to be retrained all over again. So those are the things we work with and deal with. But I also learn from these women. I also show them kindness. I also show them respect and dignity for their strength and bravery that they're showing. So for solutions, I'm old school, so I'm gonna spell out the word solutions for addictions and women who deal with addictions. So S stands for specialized. Women should have access to specialized treatment, gender-specific treatment that we offer right on that campus, treatment designed specifically for women, because women's bodies process drugs differently than men. Women have different recovery and addictions and deal with those things differently than men. Women start to use drugs differently than men. O stands for overflowing. Women should have access to treatment that is overflowing with nurturing, safe, positive environments, just like what I hear you sharing about right here. It should be overflowing with that type of nurturing. L, women should have access to treatment that leads them through individual sessions and group sessions. Those sessions should have evidence-based practices and should be research informed and should lead women through discussions about their physical abuse, sexual abuse, family abuse, healthy relationships. It guides them through all of that process. U, understands. Women should have access to treatment providers that understand ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, trauma and resilience, and how that impacts your recovery and your addiction and your mental and emotional well-being. Women should have access to treatment providers that teach. The letter T is for teaches. Women should be taught in treatment about their triggers, about sexual and reproductive health, about pregnancy, about healthy relationships, about NA and AA, about STDs and HIV and AIDS and trauma and mindfulness, and go on and on and on. We provide all of those things in our intensive treatment facilities, and you all provide some of those things and a lot of those things here. I is for individualized. Women should have access to individualized treatment designed specifically for them. Treatment where they are working in partnership with, in collaboration with their treatment staff, that they develop their own goals, their own treatment objectives, their own interventions, and they work on their progress together. So, I can't spell, can I? O is for outreach. Women should have access to treatment where treatment providers are conducting outreach and public information and education, just like we're doing today. We must continue the conversations to change the culture, attitudes, and dispel the myths and stigma that still exists around addiction. We've got to continue to do outreach. N is for nurturing. Women should have access to treatment that is nurturing, not only for them, but it's nurturing for their children as well. It is nurturing just not for the children that they bring with them to treatment, but their children that are in other placements, that are involved with child welfare, that are involved with families, because those relationships are going to make a difference. And then S, women's treatment should be strength-based. It should emphasize their strengths. It should help women identify their strengths, acknowledge their strengths, own their strengths, embrace their strengths, give voice to their strengths, because that strength is what's going to help them drive their recovery and their sobriety. All of these are many, many solutions. We are all part of the solution. We must continue the conversation to encourage not only women, but all individuals to be open and honest that they need help. So they won't be ashamed, they won't feel guilty, but they will feel comfortable with coming forward and asking for help and seeking treatment so that they will know that hope is possible and that recovery is possible. Thank you all.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you we've been 2 years now, I think now on virtual. It's our first in-person event. So thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting me and the McShin Foundation. Just follow Care Talks and McShin on social media for our next upcoming event. And there's some McShin events as you leave. We have our golf tournament. We're looking for whole sponsors for that, and some golfers. So women golfers. Yes, let's get a foursome in there. Thank y'all for coming.
Do you want to sign my book?
This is gonna be the best day ever. This is gonna be the best day ever. Wake up, top of the morning. The bacon is crispy, the coffee is pouring. My meditation is peeling an orange. The bank says I'm already scoring. I got a parking spot right outside. Step into my brand new